grades on that property, we're building on the plateau, right? So we have buffering above us, buffering below us. Leanne said it perfectly. I have already spent money on my engineers just to see if it's feasible, right? And they've presented the plan. But if it's not zoned R3, and I have to pay for 20 surveys, 20 title reports, the investment partners don't like it because now you have all these 20. The village isn't going to like it because I'm going to sit down and talk about each one of these buildings individually, which means I'm going to break out my annual budget 20 times to get to the same point, right? We're not asking for any higher density. We're not asking for, and all the things we're talking about tonight are great concerns, and I want to answer all your questions. But going from an R2 to an R3 doesn't involve who's going to live there. It doesn't involve what their income level is. It doesn't involve where the funding comes from. It's literally not going to change the density of this project. So I'm here tonight. It's already 10 after 8. The board has been great. I would say I'm more than happy to have another meeting with the neighbors. This time it won't be a presentation. It'll be literally, we'll sit, we'll talk, we'll try to explain things. I'm more than happy to do that. I just honestly feel a little bad that that's kind of the time of the board tonight, which the board is tasked with a zone change. But I definitely want to sit with the neighbors again.
So maybe we can have another meeting with you, a public meeting that doesn't this time conflict with the zoning meeting, because I know some of these guys would probably have that zoning meeting.
Yeah, that was my fault. It was kind of my only availability, and I did not realize. So it definitely will not conflict with other public meetings.
You keep saying that you had a meeting with the neighbors. When?
Last Wednesday.
And how were we supposed to know about that?
It was in the Penny Saver. It was on the radio.
On social media. Because I got something in the mail about my feedback about the bridge being fixed, and send that back. But I didn't get anything about.
Well, we'll do the best we can. Again, we'll maybe the village can post it on the webpage. It's again, I'm one person trying to reach everybody that I can, and I'm sure that Leanne and the village would help me get the word out.
Anybody else for the public hearing?
Did I correctly hear the figure of $23,000 for the pilot program for taxes?
In that neighborhood.
Okay, the neighborhood of $23,000. I would like the record to reflect. I would like an explanation as to why $23,000 is a benefit to our village when I've heard Trustee Fuller and I think Trustee Morton try to explain that it didn't make sense as a benefit to our village. So I'd like that noted.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, is there any chance we can have the minutes ahead of time? I know as of this afternoon, the minutes from our September meeting weren't posted yet.
Yes, we typically wait till we approve to post them, but yeah, we can post
Just
them.
for the attachments
Draft,
that we
right?
shared.
Correct. Yeah, so we'll get these ones posted to the website and draft those. They usually come out pretty quick. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll close that public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak on the floor?
Sure.
And apologies to Mr. Lounsbury, who I know has been waiting patiently. I'll try to be brief. I've gotten the packet from the county last Thursday, and I think Ms. Tinney and the county put a lot of work into this, and I appreciate their efforts all along the process. Getting that last Thursday and going through it, I certainly haven't had enough time to consider that, and therefore I am not comfortable in having a vote this evening on this zoning project. And I recommend that we do not vote it, and I would like to hear from the rest of the trustees if they are in that same consensus. And then the last thing I would like to do, if that is the case, I would like to tell this audience that now, so that those that were here for that can leave if they want to.
believe the zoning village of Wheeler zoning board should have a chance to consider this. They have not considered this project yet.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I think a little more time to consider would be better.
Just a couple things. So Leah, I appreciate you trying to reach out to me today. Not selfishly, I've got some personal stuff going on in my life right now, related to my mother, so it's been hard to digest a lot of things. That's one, but there's a lot of stuff here I need to get into, and I agree with Rusty. I think we need some more time to do it.
So can we have a, Ron?
I agree as well. Saturday, I spent about 4.5 hours looking over this paperwork, and I don't think I really touched 100% of it, so I would agree with Russ.
So we have a motion to table this until,
Mr. Mayor, we have no action on the floor, so we need not to table anything. We're just are telling this audience we're not going to take actions if that's the case.
thank you.
Okay.
Just put that already. Just a second.
So do we want more public comment on this topic?
So if what you're looking for is an opportunity for members of the public to gather more information and then speak to you about that, then you would not want to close your public hearing tonight. You would want to just hold it open for a subsequent meeting. If you are not looking for that opportunity, then you would close your public hearing tonight. You always have an opportunity to hold another public hearing, but you would have to re-advertise that. You put it in the paper again, you have to do whatever you normally do for public hearing advertising.
A quick mention for the attorney. If we close the public hearing, then we won't have a technical public hearing. Want to add subsequent board meetings, we still have the privilege of the floor, and our residents can still comment on this topic. It just won't be a technical public hearing.
Yes, that's correct.
I think I'd be supportive of keeping the public hearing open.
So we keep it open.
So then in any subsequent meeting, you would have the opportunity to hear additional public comment. You would then close the public hearing, conduct your environmental review, deliberate, and vote.
Do we need an action to keep it open, or is it just open?
Just don't close it.
Just don't close it.
It's not closed, still open. So, that ends, doesn't close that. Next thing on the agenda is the public hearing for the rezoning of tax map numbers 128, 7, 36, 1, 128, 08, 7, 38, 128, 08, 7, 128 08 7 from central business to industrial. We'll open that. Mr. Lounsbury, want to say anything? Thank you, guys.
Mayor Barata, Village Trustees. I'm Steve Lounsbury, President of Applied Technology Manufacturing at 71 Temple Street in Owego. We have applied to rezone the following parcels that you listed on Central Avenue and Temple Street in Owego 4 properties are contiguous and would form a small industrial district. Tioga County, as owner of the 62 to 64 Temple Street property, which would be included in the district, concurs with this request. Applied Technologies entered into a purchase agreement with Charlie Chapman, the owner of Tioga Transport, to purchase parcels at 62 Central Avenue and 64 Central Avenue, contingent on having the property rezoned for industrial use and receiving any other requirement of governmental approvals, as well as receiving a satisfactory environmental examination of the properties. With the change to industrial classification, we'll be able to expand our existing CNC machining and fabrication business located at 71 Temple Street into the property at 62 to 64 Central Avenue. The property is at present unproductive and has been vacant since 2014. Building will require significant renovation in order for us to expand our operation into it, and we envision 4 to 8 full-time employees on site to start. Including the Tioga County property at 62 to 64 Temple Street, which is partially utilized as a wood fabrication shop, and the Applied Technology Manufacturing Corp property at 71 to 73 Temple Street, currently operating as a CNC machine and metal fabrication operation, would also legitimize the current grandfathered non-conforming uses of these properties. So far, we have received planning board approval of our site plan contingent upon the zoning change, zoning board approval for parking on premises contingent upon the zoning change, and our environmental study has come back clean. So, hereby request that you consider this. Take any more comments. Any questions?
Can I have a copy of your notes? Can I have a copy of your notes?
Oh, sure. Other questions?
I don't have questions. So anybody else have anything?
Okay, we at the Tioga County Economic Development Planning, and we support the requested zone change for applied technology, talking about the jobs within the village. I think that's important, and as Steve noted, minimizing the grandfathered properties in this district. So we would support the request for the zone change.
Anybody else? Comments on the public hearing?
Need the exercise? I'd like to say that I was at the planning board meeting on this subject. These are the kind of projects this town needs. We need the jobs, and Mr. Lounsbury's business has always been quiet and run professionally. He's never been a nuisance to this town, and I want to see positive things in its growth.
Anybody else? Okay. Close this public hearing. Board, any discussion?
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the rezoning of those tax map numbers. Is identified in the local law number 5.
Second. Close the public hearing first. Close it.
Just did it.
Close it.
Yep, we need a motion to approve it. I think Mr. Morgan, Trustee Morgan's offered it in the form that the resolution that's prepared before the board right now is already in that form. The only caveat I would have is, Rod, I know we had a public hearing on the, obviously, the south side rezoning. Is that going to be local law number 4 if the board had approved it tonight, and then this would be 5? So since that wasn't voted on, does this now become 4?
This would probably be.
Okay, because I just want to make sure our numbering is consistent with the rest of the vote.
Let's make the one you picked.
So it should be number 4.
I second that.
next item on the agenda is BCA, bid opening results and awarding of bids. They've been waiting a long time.
Excuse me, Mayor, are we in a public meeting?
Yeah, we can.
Are we in a public meeting? Are we in the public?
Yes, yes.
So don't you start the public meeting out with the public?
You're right, yeah. So,
I'll be real fast, gentlemen. Trust me. This is a good project. Oh, no, listen, I will be quick. Only because they invited me to come.
You're on the clock.
Because everybody didn't know what we were doing with the fountain project.
You're on the clock.
Okay, but I had time. Everybody's waiting for me.
forgot to put public comment on the agenda.
This is the update to the fountain project. There was some concerns because people saw that the fountain went away. The site being cleared. We had a meeting this past Wednesday with the gentleman that did, that we paid for, that did the site specifications and what we're going to do to rebuild. A gentleman out of Ohio. We were a little delayed. He's waiting for a new heart. So, he was on the phone the other day, so everybody's got a heart they're not using, he can use one. So we met with him on Wednesday. Our tentative project beginning will be, we'll pour the foundation, and these are all the specs and stuff. If you go out to WeGoHostTeams.com's website that's on the bulletin boards that are down there, you can get this information as well. We'll pour the base part of the foundation in November. We'll let that sit over the winter so the concrete can cure. The fountain itself is being restored down in Alabama. That'll come back in the spring, and there'll be a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in the spring to put that back together. Just so everybody knows, that's the target. So the time of year kind of got away from us, and some work that has to be done on the site to basically improve it. I will say it's a tremendous zero tax dollars, no pilot program, and a great collaboration of business partners, Holslander Concrete, Sarah Canny, John Chandler, Barney and Dick donating materials, Lopke, Lowe's Corporate. We'll do all the landscaping when we're done. Suez Water, working with Rook Construction. It's an unbelievable project that's come together that turned out to be bigger than we first estimated. And a tremendous amount of work by some individuals from a fundraising perspective. So we've sold over 352 approximately bricks for the walkway that'll be in front of the fountain. I think it'll be a good project when it's completed next year to showcase long-time history of the fountain and actually expose it and make a nice display on that piece of property. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
Last meeting, we had a proposal from the committee, from the host company to put a plaque up, and they needed our approval to get
That's
funding.
farther down in your agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's just a state historic marker that we applied for to recognize that site.
And we did get the wording of that marker. So, I think that's something we really hung up on, the marker. What you say.
Then I won't go over this. These are the specifications and everything and what has to go on at the site. But a tremendous outpouring by our business partners, our foundations, the Truman, the Hyde, you know, just a real collaborative effort to restore something that's near and dear to all of us that have grown up here multi-generational. So we didn't make the 104th birthday, but we'll make the 105th. Yes, sir.
Did you reach your fundraising goals? I see that.
You never reach your fundraising goals.
I saw the stuff at the top.
We're pretty confident. The meeting we had this past Wednesday, part of that is we're trying to figure out our actual cost of materials. And the two gentlemen that are doing the excavation and concrete work, well, there's actually two different concrete parts of it. the foundation and the base and all that work by Sarah Tanny, the actual fireman's cross stamp concrete that'll be done by Justin Hulslander. We're trying to get the numbers, but we believe with those gentlemen and their contacts that the concrete companies as well as gravel companies will donate all the materials. So that was an open, what that cost is. So I would say we're close, but there's still plenty of time to buy a brick. Anything else?
Thank you, John.
And by the way, Mr. Chandler spoke with Mr. Souls. He's aware of the plans and what's going on to make sure everything we do on the site is properly done. Anything else? If you need more information, you go to the website that's listed on those billboards, and we try to keep that as updated as possible. How do you do?
You got a couple of minutes.
The lighting project is done at Little League, and there's more to come there.
Thank you, John. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any public comment before we do the BCA?
And the Little League project, zero tax dollars. And no pile program.
Okay, you guys are. Turn on your stuff.
It doesn't like you.
Put your coins in your left pocket.
We good to start?
You're good.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So, thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Tom Patello with BCA Architects and Engineers in Watertown, and this is my coworker, Corey Reed. Corey Reed's a principal engineer in charge of the project. I'm a design engineer and associate principal at the firm. So we've been working on moving the Phase 2 wastewater project along. And a week ago today, we had bid opening, and we're here to tell you we had very good results with bid opening. The project, I'm not going to get into depth unless there's questions from the board or public on the project. We've done that in prior meetings. I do apologize. I know there's some new board members we look forward to working with. But we're here tonight to tell you primarily about the results of the bid and our recommendations moving forward. So the project consists of 4 prime contracts. There's general construction, there's electrical construction, there's mechanical contract, and tank, and contract number 4 is tank construction. The project includes building 2 new process tanks on site. So the low bidders for combined for all 4 contracts came in at, that's the number, $8,845,266. And the available construction budget is just slightly greater than that, virtually the same, $8,852,469. I should go back and note on some of the 4 low bids, there's a few alternate deletes we included in the general construction contract, which includes some site paving at the wastewater plant. And just based on experience, the reason why we listed them as alternate deletes is from experience, just in the event that we need budget relief, as in the case of this. The total of those four alternates came in at about, I believe it was about $75,000, which pushes just a little bit above our budget. But at this time, there is sufficient funding and budget available to award all 4 contracts. So as is, with the alternates deleted, there's there's $7,200 in contingency would remain. It should be noted, though, that combined in the 4 contracts, we built in what's called field allowance. The total of the 4 is $100,000. So each contract has a certain dollar amount. As unforeseen circumstances arise during construction, that field allowance will be used first for that particular contract. And again, the total of those 4 contracts is $100,000. So although there's only $7,200 of contingency, there is $100,000 to use first in those field allowances. We just move that up a little bit. That's fine. So we're recommending to the village tonight to award the contracts, vote to approve to award the contracts contingent on your attorney's approval and satisfactory post-bid qualifications. What the post-bid qualifications are is a standard procedure that we do as engineers. In fact, we sent out letters to all the apparent low bidders last week. There's contractual requirements for each low bidder, basically to give references, to check make sure the financial is solvent, to make sure that they can meet the construction schedule, things like that, standard contractual items, and references as well.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So, we're not talking to me. I'm just a little concerned because my background is subcontracts and contracting. So, I'm a little tad nervous, just what it says post-bid qualifications. I mean, there's got to be a factor of risk. I mean, qualifications could be a variety of things outside of what we discussed, correct? The other qualifications we could be concerned with, I know you want us to recommend that we approve this, but I guess I'm asking you and Nate, I mean, what's the risk on post-bid qualifications?
I mean, if you choose to award without knowing necessarily what the qualifications are or the reference packages and have a chance to follow up with those, and you're not necessarily sure tonight whether the lowest responsible bidder, that would be, I think, the question of I'm assuming that's the information that will be contained in the reference packages and the bid qualifications. You'll be able to determine were they responsible, were they completed other projects like
Correct.
this to a certain extent. So why wasn't that submitted with bids?
Because we didn't know the low bidders. That's not something we asked all the bidders submitting to give qualifications. All of them. It's kind of some of the EJC documents. Once we have the low bidders, then send out the post-bid reference so they get, because it includes a lot of financial data, references that we call up on and check. Hey, there's kind of a questionnaire to fill out. Were you happy with this contractor? Kind of follows some, and we can send over some other draft ones that we've had for other projects as well to kind of get the overall feel of what those are.
But so your question, if you award it tonight contingent on approval of these qualifications and reference packages, I mean, I think that still gives you an out if you find that later you think, in fact, they haven't been able to complete other similar projects. I mean, who are these people? They've not done anything like this before. That will tell you perhaps that they're not responsible, and you could then amend this current resolution to reject them as the low bidder based on review of these later submissions.
I guess, I'm going to get the building on this for a second. So, I've never seen a contract awarded without reasonable qualifications, but I'm not here to hold things up. I'm not going to, I've never seen a contract awarded without reasonable qualifications or certifications or whatever.
We're not recommending to award them tonight. We're recommending to award contingent upon future review of the bid qualifications and your attorney's approval.
Right, and effectively that means the award is not made until those other contingencies happen. Now, that being said, I think that, I remember, I know from several months ago, the board at that time had a lot of concern about what the costs of this project might come in at compared to what the budget was, and since then, the board had put the project on hold for a period of time, and then there was the change in the board membership, and since the election, there's been 2 new additional board members. And I don't know if it would be helpful to explain, especially for the new board members, kind of how these numbers reflect or compare to what you had initially perhaps expected or hoped, that a budget might come in at. Is this where you had expected it to be, or is it in fact more expensive than you had initially estimated? And I was just looking on my phone. I think the second phase project, the resolution authorizing the financing, was done in late 2016. So that's 2 years ago. I'm assuming at that time you said, okay, we think the cost will come in around here. Presumably you were targeting a year and a half or 2 years in the future for assuming increase in pricing. So if you could describe that.
Sure. So we advertised the project. We also like to be a little conservative when we advertise it for a public bid to contractors, that we don't inflate those numbers. So I believe the total for all 4 contracts was advertised for a total of about $250,000. But keep in mind, there's a couple of key factors that played into this project that made it a little bit unique. The project was put on hold twice by the village. So in essence, we've lost 1 construction season. And with the current bidding environment, there's a lot of work out there now. Any contractor, any consultant you talk to, they're very busy. We talked to EFC, New York State EFC, they're the ones that are doing the financing for the village for the project. They're relieved to see the prices come in where they did. They said a lot of the projects they're working on are coming in over budget right now. Also, in addition to that, until we got late into the design, it became evident based on a geotechnical report from a consultant that standard procedure what's done when we're designing buildings and structures. Because of poor soil conditions in that area of the site, the wastewater plant, 2 of the tanks and 1 of the buildings requires pile foundations, which we never anticipated. We went back and started the study. We looked at the geotechnical reports from the Phase 1 project that we completed a few years ago at the site. And those specific locations were built for Phase 1. It was not required to have deep pile foundations, only standard shallow foundations. So that was a last minute, that was well beyond when the project was scoped. So based on those factors, we're quite pleased at where the numbers came in.
And then your recommendation of an additional $500,000 in borrowing, that would require amending the 2016 resolution. Is there any expectation that EFC would include that in the low interest, zero interest loan?
We immediately talked to EFC about that, but because we've already closed on the loan because it was linked to the Phase 1 project, EFC is not able to extend the 0% financing. We agreed that we, look forward to working with the village, but they cannot commit to an interest rate right now. Market rate today is about 3.5%. We would hope that for any additional funds, we get market rate or something less.
Now that's not to say in conversation with ESC, kind of like how this project got first put on, there's a plan called the intended use plan that all projects in New York State are listed. They could list a separate project for this $500,000, but they're not certain how, to get that 0% financing, you have to score high enough. and they're not sure standalone by itself how to handle it, or would score high enough to even zero in on 0% financing. So, as Tom mentioned, today, market rate is, something they could get.
And then I know just from your handy, I think it's the second page of this packet that you put together, it looks like you've got the current budget of the total projects. I think it looks like it has phase 1 and phase 2 numbers involved in it. The total budget was 16.7 million. Dispersed and committed to date is 7.79, called 7.8 million. Does that, and it's interesting, like I looked back at the resolution from 2016 and it authorized $9.5 million for phase 2, and it said that 7.2 was what was authorized for phase 1. So what's the difference there between the 7.2 authorized for phase 1 and the 7.8 that the village has actually spent? I mean, is that some portion of phase 2 costs and this 7.8 number? Is that why it's more than 7.2 million?
I know there's some additional costs for the phase 1 project. I don't know all of it, but I know the village wanted to pour some concrete and sludge brine bed buildings, which was additional at the tail end of the project. The village also elected to buy a loader, a new loader for the facility that was not envisioned. And while I did some design on the phase 1 project, I did not do the overall project